Hello and welcome back to Benjy's Cafe Podcast. Joining me for a coffee in episode 3 is the director Tim English. Tim is one of the leading directors for Royal Caribbean Productions and was resident director for Disney's Aladdin at the Prince Edward Theatre London and the UK and international tour of The Lion King. His acting credits include Priscilla, Queen of the Desert at the Palace Theatre London and Harry Bright in the smash hit ABBA musical Mamma Mia. This Christmas marked 10 years since the sudden passing of Tim's husband, the actor and director Chris Hornby. And in 2016, Tim set up the Chris Hornby Bursary at Arts Ed School in memory of his late husband, a lasting legacy to a beautiful man. In this episode, we discuss Tim's 40-year career in the theatre industry and how he navigated life after losing Chris, and the lasting legacy Chris has left on his life and others.
You know what? He worked his magic on my life for 22 years. And I very much appreciated and loved his energy and his zest for life. I love that. But to have that in my life was wonderful. So I feel very lucky. I'm still learning from him. I still think in some situations, what would Hornby do? Chris Hornby. What would Hornby say? What would Hornby do? Because we used to call each other by our surnames.
It's a heartfelt conversation on love and loss. Welcome to Benjy's Cafe Podcast, Tim English. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Good morning, darling Ben. I'm splendid. Thank you very much. Listen, if ever I need an agent again, I'm going to come to you because that was a lovely introduction. How kind of you.
Oh, completely deserved. Ben Harlow Associates. I like the sound of it.
It does sound good, although it sounds a bit like a solicitor also.
Well, we'll have two good clients, yourself and me.
Are you implying that I live a lifestyle that may need a solicitor?
Tim, it's so good to see you, my goodness. I just want to start with, firstly, we're easing into the day here. Have you been out and about this morning? Do you have any little morning rituals just to G you up for the day ahead?
Well, in preparation for this, I have been out for a little jog with Denise Lewis this morning. Yes, I've got the couch to 5K. I'm trying to get myself back to running again, and Denise is in my earbuds saying, "Come on, I know you can do it." So I went for a little shuffle around the streets of Chiswick this morning. You can choose which running mentor you like. There's several choices. I did it with her before, and I thought, it's Dame Denise Lewis. She knows what she's talking about. And if she says I can run for 3 minutes without collapsing, I can.
Well, the speed I'm going at, Tim, I think in my ear it should be, was it Denise Robinson, the agony auntie on This Morning?
I saw the most amazing thing. You mentioned Royal Caribbean, who I work for. I just got back from Miami on Monday, and in the mornings in Miami, before I go to the studio where I stay in Aventura, there's a golf course, and it has a track around it, about 2 miles, something like that, and I like to walk around there in the mornings, and I walk as fast as I can. And one morning, I strode past an elderly guy. I guess he was easily in his 80s, if not in his mid-80s, and he was out for his morning walk, and he was going so slowly, but he was wearing his trainers and his sports kit and his, run. He had his earbuds in, and he was out for his exercise, and I admired that so much, and I was so inspired by that. I thought, right, that's going to be me. In 20 years, I'll be going out for my morning walk. So I like to try and do something in the morning if I can.
Oh, it's so important as well. Even any age, like you said, that old chap in the States, Tim, but
yeah.
just so lovely to get out there, and it's free and it's fresh air and so good for the soul, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You do feel better. I'm a big fan. I love being outside.
Aside from Tim, we did the first international tour of Mamma Mia it feels like, blimey, mid-80s, but it was 2003. And you look resplendent today, my goodness. Look at that black roll neck. It's like you're like the milk tray man. But it was like working with Roger Moore. You were so debonair.
You're ridiculous.
No, you were the gent of theatre. And what I loved, you were witty and smart, Tim, but it also confirmed the importance of whatever you're doing, manners and politeness are paramount in life. And I just thought you were wonderful.
That's really very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I remember you as the kind of like heart of the company, the positive energy, the good humour, all the things you organised for us to do outside of work. And you worked so hard on keeping the company together and making the job and the tour fun for everybody. I remember that very clearly.
Well, it wasn't too hard, to be honest, because my goodness, what What a tour, Tim. First international tour of that big show. You've got a big affiliation with Mamma Mia, as I have, Tim, but some of the places we went to, South Africa, just to be performing our craft in such a fun show and be able to travel the world, I felt so grateful. Did you?
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That's why I skipped a year and then I did the third year when they asked me to do it again because I loved it. I had a great time. It's such a fun show. The music is great. I mean, who doesn't like ABBA? Everybody likes ABBA. It's such a fun show. If you're playing one of the dads, it's a really nice job because you get it's featured, but you get time to go and take your slingbacks off and have a cup of tea, You've got time to dunk your digestive in the wardrobe room. And we met ABBA as well. Who used to come to the show? Bjorn used to come, didn't he?
Yeah, Bjorn came to the show. I think he came to the opening night in Cape Town, and do you remember we had to part for the bars? And I think we sort of had to guide him into the right place. He may have had a glass or two of the old Merlot.
I do remember he always used to have a lovely time. Yeah,
yeah, but he was great. And I think the opening night in Dublin at the Point was there were two of them. I think it was Bjorn and. It's so tricky because they swapped hair colours, didn't they, halfway through their career? It was one of the women anyway. I think she was blonde by the time she was with us in the early 2000s. So, but it was a wonderful tour, a wonderful show. Was it? I mean, we had a wonderful group of people. Was it quite odd going back into the show with a different set of faces?
I tell you what, it was very odd going back into the show. So I had auditioned for the role of Harry for the second year and I didn't get it. Somebody else got it. And then for the third year, they hadn't. I don't think they'd thought of me, but the person they had cast, it wasn't going well for him, and so they asked me to come and replace him. So I joined. I think I joined the company when they'd been together a month or so. So it was a bit strange, but there were still people there I knew. Carlton Edwards was still the MD. Beautiful Carlton. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a bit strange to begin with, but I was made very, very welcome.
It's a lovely track, isn't it, One of the Dads? I went back into it, likewise, Tim, for Royal Caribbean. My goodness, there we go.
Oh, you did? They were
So back in On the Allure of the Seas, singing the higher seas on the higher seas. And it was lovely, because I would do Dad's Arrival, the opening scene, then go down to the laundry and put my wash on. I'd have Clean Underpants by Voulez-Vous.
That needs to be a chapter in your autobiography, surely.
We mentioned Royal Caribbean there, Tim. You direct a lot for them now. The facilities in Miami, and then the facilities on the ship. I was blown away. It's like a hotbed of creativity there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love going to the studios in Miami, just outside Miami. Towards Aventura, and it's on the campus of FIU, Florida International University, and it's a huge building. I think it's something like 16 or 18 studios there, all of them large enough to fit a show in. So they build the set the same size as it would be on the ship, and you fit everything in. So any day that you go in, there may be 15 shows rehearsing all at the same time, all with their creative teams and their casts and their aerial directors and their choreographers and their vocal directors. It's a great atmosphere. And now I've been working for the company, well, consulting, I suppose they call it, for the company for 5 years now. So when I go back in now, I'm seeing people I know or I've met before. Tony Edge was there this time.
Oh my goodness!
He's such a great name in musical theatre in the UK. And it was great to see him. He and I worked together in '86, we think it was.
My goodness!
On the Simon Callow, My Fair Lady, that Edward Fox and Helen Hobson were in.
Was that one of your first jobs, Tim?
See, this is the problem, Ben. As I'm aging, actually, I've never been very good, but as I'm aging, I'm getting even worse at remembering things. I trained as a dancer, but then I had an injury, so I couldn't dance as well as I wanted to. So I went into dance teaching and dance administration. I was very lucky that John Field, CBE, and his wife Anne Heaton, who were stars at the Royal Ballet Company, kind of took me under their wing. They were like my showbiz parents. So the first jobs I did when I left Arts Ed were ballet teaching. and helping them make a syllabus for the British Ballet Organisation. But I got more and more. I ended up as assistant director at the British Ballet Organisation, and I got more and more office work and more meetings, and I was unfulfilled there. I hadn't got performing out of my system, so I quit / got sacked from from British Ballet Organisation. And then the first thing I did after that was a summer season in Babbacombe at the Babbacombe Theatre.
Oh, Tim,
I trod the very boards that Sir Bruce Forsyth has.
Oh, Tim, you're gonna set me off. My hero.
I know. I've since met one of his daughters as well, which has been great.
Oh,
yeah. So that summer season at Babbacombe was the first job after I left the dance. I'm looking at a picture up there of John Field and Anne Heaton. I have their picture. On. That was the first job back, and I loved it. And then I think after that it might have been My Fair Lady, and then I think it was Me and My Girl, which was when I met Chris.
Yeah, what a show Me and My Girl is. I think I saw it with Gary Wilmot at the Birmingham Hippodrome. Would you have been in that production, Tim? Was it the touring show? Were you at the Adelphi?
It was the touring show. That might have been the first year of the tour. I did this. Chris would have been in it. And without this being a comment on anybody else's performance, I think Gary Wilmot as Bill in that show is one of the best musical comedy performances I've ever seen.
I remember sat there, I think I was with my mum, my grandma's probably at the hip, and was just blown away. His comedy timing, his pacing, his nuancing, it was just glorious. And when I often talk about performances I've seen that really kind of sparked my love of theatre and wanting to get up there on stage. That's got to be up there. Him, Roger Allam in Much Ado at the Barbican, wow, for the RSC. Gary Wilmot, just completely marvellous.
Yeah, I agree with you. And he's a lovely, generous, kind man as well.
Yeah.
I have only great things to say about him. He was quite friendly with Chris, so he's kind of stayed in like my wider circle of contacts and friends, which is lovely.
Yeah. And you mentioned Dear Chris, Tim. He was in Me and My Girl with you. What was that initial click? Was it in the rehearsal room doing your morning stretches, or was it just, you know what, I love this guy, and my goodness, honestly, we're just beginning to have a chuckle.
He was a lovely guy. He was very gregarious. He was very outgoing and friendly, and I think it probably started like that, because I had come out of a relationship, and thought, oh, I'll go on tour. I'll go do Me and My Girl. Go on tour. I'll have a fun time, and I'll just enjoy myself with the show and touring, because touring is very interesting. It's hard work, but it's very interesting. But then I gradually got to know Chris. And I remember Nottingham Theatre Royal. We were at Nottingham Theatre Royal, and I had some kind of vocal... Have you got a story about Nottingham Theatre Royal?
No. You look like no. Whenever anyone mentions Nottingham, for some bizarre reason, I just have an image of me in green tights, giving it Robin Hood.
I think we all do, Ben. And thank goodness we do. Thank goodness we do.
My goodness.
And I got some kind of... I don't know, cold or something, and I went to work because I didn't like being off work, but the MD took me off the show because I couldn't sing properly, and so I was really upset, and I went back to my digs, and I was upset all night. And then after the show, Chris came to see me to see if I was all right, because he knew I'd been taken off the show. By the time he left my digs, I was much better. I do remember that. I think that's how we probably, how should we put it, cemented the friendship.
Glorious. I remember, do you know Luke Baxter? He came into Mamma Mia after you left after that first year, Tim.
Right.
But I remember if we were on a venue near the South Coast, he'd be like, straight home, no sailors. Or the next morning, any drag backs. But Dr. Chris there, working his magic, Tim.
He did. And you know what? He worked his magic on my life for 22 years.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes I might cry. I should warn you, I might cry. It depends. Sometimes I'm all right, and sometimes I still cry. In fact, I must go back to the therapist and get my money back, because I said to her, I want to stop crying in public. Well, that hasn't happened. I need that drawer of cash that she kept in the the room.
And after that first night in Nottingham, Tim, how did the relationship develop? Was it just instantly comfortable and
We
just
we
felt and
started
felt
we started to get digs together on tour and get to know each other and work out the balance. I was a bit older than him. I think I was 7 years older than him. So we had to work. You know, when you're getting to know people, you work out how the relationship is going to work. But we soon became very comfortable, and I very much appreciated and loved his energy and his zest for life. I love that. But to have that in my life was wonderful. And then so we shared digs for that tour. And then when that tour finished, I came back to my other flat in London, and Chris came and moved in with me, and we kind of were in each other's pocket.
Well, I remember when he used to come and visit us on the Mamma Mia tour, and like you said, just his zest for life. And I had heard of him and knew of his career, but to meet him, he was just a force of joy. Like genuinely a force. And I'd often think, God, I wish he was in our company. Just what a lovely, kind, and caring soul to anybody, really.
It's nice to hear you say that. He was like that. His whole family are like that, which is great. And they are my family. You know, I saw some of them. I saw some of them recently. After he died, the first time I went back to Southport to see his mum and to see his family, I thought, I'm going to be going to visit Chris's family. This might make me cry. When I got there, I realised it wasn't like that. I was visiting my family, which was so nice. Just like a wider group of my family, and it's continued to be like that. And he was one of 5, so now I have lots and lots of nieces and nephews from that side of the family, and now some of them have children as well. So it's delightful.
Oh, Tim, that's just glorious.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I feel very lucky to have had a relationship with him for 22 years. I feel very lucky. I'm still learning from him. I still think in some situations, what would Hornby do? Chris Hornby. What would Hornby say? What would Hornby do? Because we used to call each other by our surnames.
Does that give you so much comfort to think, oh, I'm just going to see what Hornby would do here?
Yeah, it's good. It does. And in fact, his ashes are on the shelf up there because I'm not really sure what to do with them.
would
All right,
Tim? Just give him a little wave. How wonderful, Tim! I remember. I don't know if you know this, but I think I was at the Anvil in Basingstoke rehearsing for Panto, and Chris dropped me a message to say, "Oh, I'm organising. I think it would have been your 50th, Tim, on was it the bus tour?
Yeah.
And we had a text exchange, just like Chris, my goodness, thank you for thinking of me, but I'm so sorry, but I can't make it. I'm in tech." And I thought, what a lovely, bloody great partner to set up to get in touch with your circle of friends, Tim, from all walks of life, to arrange a joyous occasion for you for a special birthday, and then to hear the news that he had passed suddenly. I think I probably say this for hundreds of people in the business who didn't even know him. It was so shocking and so sad, Tim. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine anything happening to my now fiancée Rita. Your strength is so admirable, but at the time, are you just in this void of emptiness?
I'm not sure if. Yeah, I'm just thinking about what you said about my strength is so admirable. What can you do? You have the next minute happens. The next hour happens, you know? What can you do? You have to carry on. You have to try and I think I wanted to make his life and then his death have meaning too, which we'll talk about the bursary in a minute, I know.
Yeah.
He did organise this great thing for my 50th birthday. So it was just over 10 years ago now, just 10 years and a couple of weeks. And we went out for a walk, and then around the corner came this old Routemaster double-decker bus. Beep, 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 beep. I was like, who's that? What am I? And it was 2 decks completely full of my friends and family.
Oh, Tim.
It was wonderful. So I hopped on the bus, and there was a food and drink on there and champagne, and we had this tour of London, and there were games, and we got off and played games and went for a walk. It was fabulous. And then the bus came back to Chiswick, And I got off and I was saying to everyone, "Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming." And Chris said, "No, we're not. They're not leaving now. We're all going." We went into a venue in Chiswick, and there was a further party in there. I had no idea how about any of it, and people had come from so far, and it was fantastic. But that was just before my birthday, I think, because then he died on my birthday shortly after that. But it had gone past midnight, and it was my birthday, so we had been out for dinner, and we'd got back here to the flat, and we opened some champagne, and I had lots of cards and presents to open, which was just gorgeous. And so then we went to bed. I don't know, 1:30, 2:00, something like that. And Chris always used to go to sleep before me. He used to sleep really well, and that bugged the hell out of me because I'd be tossing and turning, and he'd be asleep snoring. So he was asleep, and I wasn't quite asleep, and I heard his breathing change and be a bit strange, and he took a very deep breath, and he didn't exhale for a while, and then he exhaled very forcefully. And then he didn't breathe again. So that woke me up, as you can imagine, fully awake. And I tried to, I didn't know how to do CPR, so I tried to do CPR, and I was shouting at him, and I was slapping his face to try and wake him up. And then I ran to get my phone and called the ambulance, and 3 or 4 ambulances came, and then suddenly my flat was full of people, and Chris was on the they took me out into the lounge room here, and they did CPR, and then they took him away in the ambulance, but nobody was able to do anything to save him. They even went as far as injecting adrenaline into his heart to try and start it, but the doctor at the hospital said he'd been without oxygen for quite a while there, and so it's probably better that they didn't get him back to life. So it was very, very unexpected and very sudden, and I still don't really know why he died. Obviously there was an autopsy because he was 43, and he was working with a trainer. He was very fit and very healthy, and he used to cycle he was working at Lion King at the Lyceum as the resident director there, so he used to cycle in and cycle back. And then they removed the organs and tested the organs and stuff like that, and we even went as far as doing genetic testing, but they couldn't find a reason. They likened it to infant cot death. When I need to find comfort, I think, well, they said to me he wouldn't have known any. There was no pain or discomfort. So he would not have been aware of anything happening. He died at home, in his bed. The only thing they found in his body was alcohol because we'd had champagne that night. So that was kind of nice. Some things I can remember after that, and other things I can't remember.
Yeah,
things happening. I went back to work after 2 weeks because you just have to. It's so people are so kind and want to talk to you and give their condolences and everything, but that becomes all you talk about for 2 weeks. That's all you talk about, all you can think about. People from all over the world phoning or visiting. I stopped answering my phone for several days. At least my sister or somebody else would answer my phone. But eventually I thought, I have to go back to work. I have to get out. I have to try and bring some normality back, some routine. So I was resident director, as you said, for the Lion King UK and International Tour, and the show was in Cardiff. And so I went back to Cardiff with my friend Nadine to empty my flat there that I had rented and to just go and see the company. And I'm very pleased. I can't remember if I went back to work then or not, but I'm very pleased I did that. And then, like I said, you just have to. So the next minute happens, the next hour happens, the next day happens. You just have to be in that moment and deal with it how you do. It's not right, it's not wrong. You just have to do it how you can.
I'm so appreciative of you being so open. It's really emotional for me just hearing your story. And you were such a great couple. You're a great guy, Tim, and it just really angers me in this world. You lost somebody who was so right for you, and you were so close to. You had so many wonderful life experiences and joy with each other. It just really annoys me when people don't appreciate their loved ones. It's like, my goodness, we never know when life is going to finish. I'm a huge advocate of just try and smile, try and love.
I try and do that as well.
Yeah.
Because as we've just said, that glib phrase "life's too short" is that but yeah, I try and do that. I try and live like that as well, because that's how I want to live my life. I want to live my life in a calm, content, peaceful, happy way, doing things I want to do with people I want to do them with, and I want to, whatever small way I can, I want to try and be a positive energy in a room or with some. Or I think that's partly age. Like I said to you, I just had my 60th, and I now have 40 years experience in our industry, and it's lovely to share that with people, or help people, talk to people if they're struggling with life or with work or unemployment or whatever it is. I think I've experienced all of it. It's very important to appreciate each day and appreciate the people you're with. Even sometimes, like I said to you, I like to be outside and I go for a walk. Walking around that track in Aventura in the morning, I would see the lizards and the birds and the trees. This sounds like a real old lady. I'm like Rosemary in Time. I see the trees. I'd be Felicity Kendall, I think. I find joy in all of those things. Go slowly, appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
But then it's easy to. I'm not ambitious now for my. I was going to say I'm not ambitious for my life. I am ambitious for my life because I want it to continue being content.
Yeah.
But I'm not professionally. I'm not ambitious now, and so I can live a calmer life. I think it's harder for younger people because when I'm a good deal older than you, but we've worked together and we've been together as we progressed our careers.
Yeah.
And you do have to work hard. And you do have to put yourself on the front foot and get yourself in front of people and work on your skills and work on yourself. So appreciating the moment and living in the moment can be difficult then. But
what is fantastic is through Chris's fund, the Chris Hornby Fund with Arts Ed, it must be so lovely to have that wonderful legacy of Chris, but also you're helping young performers just guide their way into this business, which can be tricky. That must be really rewarding for you on so many levels, Tim.
Yeah, it's a wonderful part of my life. It's hugely important to me and to our extended families and to so many of our friends who support the bursary or ask about the bursary like you have done in the past. And we have 6 Chris Hornby scholars now, people who we've funded and mentored through Arts Ed. They're all doing tremendously well. It means a lot to me. It's lovely to be able to give them some money from the fundraising we do and the donations that people so kindly send. We have so many supporters. It's lovely. But I think the key to the Chris Hornby Bursary is the mentoring. They always have my support. They'll always have my ear. And if I don't know or if I can't help, I know somebody else who can, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Chris was a great supporter of young people. At Lion King, there's young Simba and young Nala. He was always very keen on working with the Cub School and developing the younger performers and teaching those. And he used to do some teaching on Saturday mornings for younger performers. And I thought, we didn't set up the bursary till about a year after he died, because I spent a year. I don't really remember that year, the first year after he died. I don't really remember. But at the time, Chris Hocking was the principal at Arts Ed, and he helped me so much in setting up the Chris Hornby Bursary. And for the first year, we fully funded Jacob, our first scholar, for his whole 3 years. We paid for his whole 3 years, and it's wonderful. It's a great feeling. It means a lot to me.
What I love as well, like you must have had such a lovely Disney-esque household, Tim. You and Chris affiliated with the Lion King.
Yeah.
Fantastic company. I think it's so great they're putting these family favourites on stage, lavish productions. Were they a good company to work for? Was it lovely being part of like the first London production of Aladdin, the coverage, the exposure, and you were there in the heart of it? And also, there's a big role, isn't there, as resident director, in just keeping those standards up?
Yeah, they were a lovely company to work for. They were a demanding company to work for because expectations are high.
Yeah.
because, as you say, Disney have very high standards. But I was thrilled to be resident director for Aladdin and to help the first cast and then do the first cast change and put all the new understudies into the show before I left. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. With any no, it really was great. I'm very proud of my association with The Lion King and with Disney and with Aladdin. But it takes over. Resident director for a show that size is full time. It takes over your life. And my contract was to be in the theatre was 6 shows a week, and that's quite a lot for a resident director. And I wouldn't take on that amount of responsibility or work now. I don't think, but I'm very happy that I did it, and I learned a lot, especially from the 2 associate directors for Lion King, Anthony Lin and John Stefaniuk. I learned a lot from them, and the associate musical director Clem Ishmael.
Is it lovely now, Tim, after having, that's a lot, isn't it, to be in for 6 shows a week as resident director, but having that freedom now where you can sort of dip in and out of projects, hopping over, your air miles must be clocking up over to Miami. Is that a nice feeling? You mentioned that, your goals have kind of dissipated slightly, that just, you want to stay busy, but it's just having contentment as opposed to just driving yourself into the ground almost.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to have this Royal Caribbean job. The original director, one of the co-creators and the original director for the show that I work on, Raki Plews, is a good friend of mine. The show is a superhero show, and it's called The Effectors because the superhero's powers are theatrical effects. And it's developed from just one show into an effector's presence on 5 Royal Caribbean ships. And I direct 3 of those, and I helped create 3 of those. And it takes about half my year doing the cast changes. We rehearse in the studio for about 3 weeks for each cast whenever it comes around, and then we go to the ship for around 3 weeks to do the tech rehearsals and the install, because the shows are very technical. We have drones. We build a GPS system inside the theatre. There are drones flying around inside the theatre. There are 13 aerial tracks in one of the shows. One of the heroes, she flies around the auditorium firing lasers, and there are aerial battles. There's a drone that somebody rides in and flies around the auditorium. Lots of stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stage lifts, automated scenery. They're complex. So the theatre and the stage area is kind of designed with the show and the technical requirements of the show in mind, and the things that they can do. I haven't been on any other cruise ships, so I can't comment on any of the others, but the talent that Royal Caribbean get is the equivalent of the talent we're used to in the West End or on Broadway. And in fact, people are interchangeable. They do a Royal Caribbean job, they do a Broadway job, they do a West End job. And like you said, the Royal Caribbean are prepared to spend the money to try to have the best live entertainment. I haven't seen the others, but I'm confident that, if it's not the best, it's bloody close. Yeah.
Well, the quality of the shows, it's unreal. The standards, like you say, in our cast in Mamma Mia, we had, Broadway performers, people from Australia. It was wonderful to get to work with different cultures as well. And, I remember in Miami in the rehearsal room, like you said earlier, Tim, it'd be like you're rehearsing next door, you've got We Will Rock You, you've got Cats. And honestly, the urge I had to give it my Rumpelstiltskin just to dive in and give it, honestly, I think I would have been asked to leave the country. But yeah, my goodness, the standard's unreal. And Tim, if I ever see you substage in the laundry, you're welcome to borrow some Lenore, okay?
Thank you very much.
Just give me a holler. Tim, it's so lovely to chat to you. You're at home now, you travel the world a lot through work. I just wondered, how do you decompress, would you say, after a stint away in Miami? Do you just like to relax now, and do you enjoy going to see theatre as a busman's holiday, or do you just like to pop on some lovely music, a nice glass of something, and just kick back?
Yeah, it's a mixture of all of that, actually. I'm home now for 2 weeks before I go off to Japan to get on board Spectrum of the Seas to do the tech rehearsals.
Wow.
My cast and some of the install team are there already working on another show. So I feel like 2 weeks at home is quite short. So these 2 weeks are full of social engagements, really catching up with friends and family, going down to see my parents as soon as we've done this. We're going to Starlight Express on Thursday. But I'm a homebody. I do like to be, when I'm not working, it's quite hard to prise me out of prize me out of Chiswick and get me somewhere else.
You should be the mayor of Chiswick, Tim. My goodness.
Should be the mayor of Chiswick. I don't think we've got one.
Yeah, well, let's do
mayor.
it. Let's start the campaign. I can see you in a nice bit of bling there. You'd really see you. You look good.
You could come along as my lady mayoress. I do like to be at home. It's great to be back in London. I love Miami, but it's great to be back in London. It's a fabulous city.
Well, Tim, enjoy being home.
Thank you, darling.
It's been so joyous to chat to you. It's been emotional hearing your story, just how to navigate life in the toughest of times. And so much love for you, Tim, and, very fond memories of having a glass of something back in my drinking days, of course, in Edinburgh with you and the gorgeous Chris. And keep ploughing on with the Chris Hornby Bursary Fund. It's so important. And if people are listening and would love to donate and just help some budding performers in this wonderful industry, then please do.
I'm always happy for people to contact me as well. I'm happy to talk about anything, really. If anybody's struggling with anything. I want to thank you, Ben, for this. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope I haven't waffled on too much, but I haven't seen you and spoken to you for so long. It's been a pleasure.
Tim, you've been wonderful. You are wonderful, and honestly, I wish you so much love and happiness in the future. And
thank you.
It's just been lovely to have you with me for a coffee in Benjy's Cafe podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Enjoy your coffee. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks for listening to the wonderful Tim English. If you feel like you'd like to make a donation to the Chris Hornby Bursary, do say hello on Instagram at chris.hornby.bursary or visit www.artsed.co.uk. I'll leave a link in the show notes too. Don't forget, a fresh new episode of Benjy's Cafe podcast drops every Tuesday. Just find us wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a follow so every episode gets sent straight to your phone. Tell your friends, tell your family, and if you can, please leave a review. Thanks so much for your lovely feedback on Series 2 so far. In Episode 4, I'll be joined by the sports broadcaster, voice of England cricket, Graham Woodward. I'll get the kettle on. Have a great day.